Good afternoon, my Fed Phoenixes. So today, y'all know I got up coffee. And I know my glasses are wet. I'm wet. I got caught out in the rain. So, which honestly, with this as hot as it's been lately, it was a welcome surprise. So anyway, so today we're going to do a video on departures, right? Departures and variances are two terms. They're kind of interchangeable. You know, it's almost like they say it's an art, the use of the two terms, departure and variance. Um, there are really two types of departures and variances in the federal system. And let me tell you what that is. And we're just going to use the term departure because since departure and variance can kind of be interchangeable or it can be circumstantial. Again, you know, the terms are, you know, pretty much interchangeable. There's really no difference for the most part. In different circumstances, some lawyers or some judges like to use various terminology, but it's the same exact thing. So, and more commonly, the term departure is used. So there are two types of departures in the federal system. Now, in case you're wondering what is a departure, most defendants in the federal system will be sentenced by federal guidelines. There's a bracket of, let's say, 17 to 49 months that you may do, you know, whatever your guideline bracket is. And there's a guideline chart, by the way, very easily accessible to figure that out. So a departure is when the judge, an upward departure, which we're not talking about so much today, is when the judge decides that you need to be sentenced above the range for the sentencing guidelines for your crime. A downward departure is when he feels that it's appropriate to sentence you below that range. Now, you may be wondering, how are these things determined? You know, how are they applied? In your PSI, your PSR, there's a whole section where it asks about victims, about any kinds of enhancements, and you know, your cooperation. You know, have you taken responsibility, and these are to adjust your point level. But generally, departures, you know, variances, pretty much come from the same thing. Sometimes the judge will give a person an upward departure because, you know, their crime was particularly heinous, or maybe they're just a repeat, you know, just a repeat offender over and over. And, you know, and their crime just, you know, maybe they committed their crime while on federal paper from another federal charge for the same thing, you know. And judges get real tired of that. They're not big fans of that. Now, a downward departure, which is what you want, obviously, generally is the result of one of two things. And the judge giving you an upward departure because he's just tired of your mess or your crime is particularly heinous is not something you're really going to know too much going into sentencing. But if you're going to get a downward departure, you're going to know generally ahead of time if that's really a possibility for you. So let's talk about it. The most common type of downward departure in the federal system is called a 5K1. The 5K1 is better known as the snitch card, and for good reason. 5K1, and a lot of times when you have a federal case, you know, a prosecutor or an investigator will approach you, depending on the nature of your case, maybe just a regular federal prosecutor, maybe the CIA, maybe the FBI, ATF, you know, just any Homeland Security, you know, any of the federal agencies, you know, involved in prosecuting people for federal crimes. And what they'll basically tell you is, you know, we would love to give you a 5K1 recommendation letter, but we're going to need something from you first. And what they're going to ask from you, and what is required for a 5K1, is that you provide, and the wording is something to the effect of substantial assistance in the prosecution of others. This means that you will be telling other people's business. You will probably have to testify against these people potentially. You'll certainly be giving grand jury testimony against them. And when you go to prison, now if you go to a camp or a low, nobody really checks paperwork. If you're a woman, a medium's off the table. So you're going to go to a camp or low, or you're just going to be hopped up to a max. If you go to a max or a super max, people are going to ask to see your paperwork because they want to know what kind of people they're living with. And this is where a 5K1 may just get you stabbed in the neck, or may cause you to check out and have to go in protective custody, basically voluntarily live in the shoe. Now, the Fed does have a couple dropout yards, you know, prison pods specifically for gang dropouts or people with real nasty 5K1s. But generally, most people with a 5K1 don't get the option of going to a dropout yard. They have to be in general population or protective custody, which if the people in general population find out you have a 5K1, that's not going to be something that's going to be pleasant for you. and living in PC is not going to be pleasant either. So, and you really need to factor that. You know, if you find out that getting a 5K1, you know, is just going to potentially knock a few years off your sentence, is it really worth what you're about to, you know, getting out 3 years earlier? Maybe. I mean, you're going to have to fight. You're probably going to have to carry a shiv around if you got a 5K1 and you're in general population, because people probably just might want to stab you. So you got to be ready to protect yourself. Well, going in with that 5K1, you're going to be a target. When you come home, you know, a lot of people ain't going to have no respect for you. And while you're in, of course. And you're gonna have some nasty labels attached to you. Your safety is going to be in danger. And there's a much, much, much better chance that you're going to have to catch additional charges on the inside just to protect yourself and survive. So you may think that, oh, I'm shaving, you know, 3-5 years off my sentence by doing this, and, you know, I don't care what nobody thinks. But keep in mind that you shaved 3-5 years off your sentence and you don't care what nobody thinks. But you're probably going to care about a little bit of something when what people think puts you in a situation where you got to carry a sharpened piece of plastic around in your boot or in your drawers. And then you got to stab 3 guys in the shower because they found out about your 5K1, and now you got 10 extra years added to your sentence. You know, you really got to weigh the pros and cons here. I think most people, myself included, are kind of morally opposed to the idea of a 5K1. You know, we all have made our own decisions. We're going to have to live with the consequences of those. Even if you're innocent, you know, there had to be some association. Some bad choice was made somewhere for you to be in this position. With the feds. Now, with the state, you know, who knows? With the feds, you definitely made at least some bad decisions, if not criminal activity. So, you know, be an adult, take responsibility for yourself. That's what I say. And don't even bother with all that 5K1 nonsense. Now, since we know we're not endorsing 5K1s, and since we know that they're not at all respectable in any way, quite frankly, let's talk about the other type of departure you can get. And a lot of people don't realize. They think if you got a departure, you know, based on a variance, you know, something like that, that you had to have a snitch card. You have to have a 5K1. Because most people don't know about 5K2s. Now, the 5K2 is where you want to be. Is where you want to make sure, or try to, if you can fit into the mold, squeeze your butt up in there. The 5K2 departure is not a snitch card. The 5K2 does not require that you throw anybody else under the bus, you harm anyone else, you break up any other families, you know, disrupt anyone's life. The 5K2 is a very vaguely worded potential variance and departure, you know, condition for departure. Because with a 5K1, the prosecutor basically just submits a letter to the judge saying that you got a 5K1, you know, you did a 5K1, and asks for leniency. A 5K2 is identifying circumstances within your situation that are abnormal and therefore may warrant leniency. Or may you know, be required to be reviewed in order to really sentence you appropriately as an individual outside of the criminal bracket you fall into. So you may be wondering, well, what the heck is a 5K2? Like, what does that entail? A lot of times 5K2s are given for aberrant conduct. That is the term your lawyer and the judge will use if this applies to you. Aberrant conduct means something out of character. If you're a person who has no criminal history and all of a sudden you're looking at a federal felony case and you live a regular, you know, 9-to-5 life, you know, chances are your court charges are aberrant conduct. If they are decided, you know, if the judge sees that as aberrant conduct, it is within his ability and even advisable to take that into consideration in sentencing you. Another thing is the circumstances and conditions during the commission of your crimes. Are you a person who generally is not a criminal, but maybe you got into some cocaine or some drugs, you know, and while under the influence of drugs and feeding a habit, you committed some crimes, and since have been clean and sober, and, you know, you had a unique set of circumstances that is not your day-to-day, that is not typical of you, that influenced you. You know, maybe you were a woman who was getting beat up by your husband or your boyfriend, and you felt you had no option but to commit crimes. Maybe you're a person, part of the wording in the 5K2 is to protect innocent family members, otherwise innocent family members, from being harmed by your incarceration. Now, this one tends to apply a lot if, let's say, you have a spouse or a child or an adult relative, you know, a parent, a cousin, a grandparent, an aunt, who you take care of. You know, maybe you have a severely mentally ill cousin who you take care of. Maybe, your spouse is battling a terminal condition. Maybe you have a chronically ill child that frequently has long hospital stays. If you're a caretaker for people in those kind of circumstances, particularly if you were prior to your crime, the judge is going to kind of look at it like, well, why would you even put yourself in this position knowing these people depended on you? But if those circumstances have arose since your crimes, that actually looks better for you. That's more solidified, because now, the judge says, okay, this person probably would not have made the same decisions if what was weighing on the table then it was what was weighing on the table now. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, if you have a life-changing situation where you become a caretaker for someone in a very serious medical circumstance, you're going to make better decisions in general regarding your freedom, because there's someone out here that desperately depends upon you, and you have these obligations that you just can't risk. Generally, when people do really crazy stuff legally, they generally say, I had nothing to lose, or what am I going to lose? So when a person has more to lose, when there's more on the table, when your freedom has more value for you, you're less likely to risk it. And judges know that. That's just a human thing. So if you did the whole 5K one, that's your prerogative, I guess. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give y'all legal advice. I can just give you advice at person to person based on my experience and things that I've seen and know. But assuming you don't have a 5K one, you should definitely start looking into the conditions of 5K2. If your lawyer has not mentioned this to you, that's a huge red flag. I don't care if he's a public defender, if you're paying for him. If he's not talking about 5K2 departures for you, and in any way, shape, or form that might apply to you, he's giving you lip service. He's telling you what you want to hear, potentially, unless he's a jerk and just straight up let you know he ain't doing his job. But you're probably paying someone to do a whole lot less for you than what I would do, and I've never even been to law school. So definitely, if your lawyer doesn't bring it up, you need to bring it up, and more importantly, you need to sit back and ask yourself, why would he not bring this up when this can shave years off my period of incarceration? When this can make me look a lot more respectable or sympathetic or human in my PSR. So, but those are the two types of departures, 5K1, 5K2. That's a general rundown of what they're about. What you can expect with them. With the 5K1, I think almost always you get a lesser sentence because of it. With a 5K2, I would say it's 5K1, I'd say, 99.9% of the time. 5K2, depending on the true severity and how provable your circumstances that make that applicable to you are, I would say there's probably about a 75-80% chance that that's going to get you a little more leniency in a later sentence from the judge. So with that high of a probability, you certainly need to be looking into this. So fly high, my phoenixes, and I hope this information was helpful. If you like the video, like the video. Feel free to subscribe, hit that notification bell if you'd like to know when new videos are dropped. As you all know, in a few months, I will probably be heading to federal prison to self-surrender. At that time, I cannot make new videos. So if you want to see new content as it's released, when I come home from prison and when I'm in the halfway house and stuff, definitely you want to hit the notifications bell. Sorry that I'm not looking into the camera a lot of this video. First off, I'm a person who's has an overactive sense of situational awareness. So I'm always, when I'm in public, kind of looking around. Even in my home, I'm kind of looking, for any kind of strange movement or noises. I'm what some folks would call paranoid, which has served me well in life, by the way. But also, I was looking at the numbers, the time on the video versus the little camera thingy most of this video, because I don't even know why. I got distracted by it. So, anywho, I hope this video has been helpful. Feel free to like, comment, feel free to share on other platforms if you would like. And I look forward to going through this journey with y'all, and I hope I can be of some assistance, whether it be moral support or information, on what to expect and how to make the best out of this situation. So we're going to get through this because we have to, and good day. God bless.